Hey, welcome back, everybody. Good morning and happy Tuesday to you. It is time once again for 5 minutes with Phil. And I'm glad that you have joined me today. This morning, I want to take a look at the book of Job. Now, don't be scared. A lot of people like to skip over the book of Job because a lot of tough things happen to Job. And you don't have to be afraid of this book, okay? It's like Job and Revelation. We get scared out of our minds. There's actually a lot that we can learn from books like that. And Job actually has a moment here that I want to capture in chapter 23 where he is really honest about how he is feeling. And what's interesting is that I think that we can relate to that quite a bit if we're honest with ourselves. I think Job, in this scripture that I'm about to show you, is going through a number of emotions and a lot of feelings in his faith towards God that we seldom want to talk about. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, Job 23, start in verse 8. Take a look at the screen. It says this, "But if I go to the east, he's not there. And if I go to the west, I do not find him. When he's at work in the north, I do not see him. And when he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him." Let's stop there, okay? Before we continue, and we'll pick it up. But here's Job. It's like everywhere he goes, okay, he can't sense God. He can't sense God's presence. North, south, east, west. He can't sense him, and maybe for us, sometimes we're in that we're in that boat. We're kind of in that situation where we go to work, we don't sense God. We go home, we don't sense God. We're by ourselves, we're in the woods, walking, we don't sense God. We're in church, and maybe we just don't sense God. It's not that God's vanished, but we're having a hard time recognizing his presence, that there's an emptiness there. How do you deal with that emptiness? Again, I think this takes place in a lot of Christians, a lot of people who follow Jesus. I think this takes place in our lives a lot more than we care to admit. So, what does Job have to say about that? Look at verse 10. Ready? Look at the screen. Let's pick it up there. He says, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. My feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept to his way without turning aside. I have not departed from the commands of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. Here's the key. All right. Here's the key. When we have those moments where it's kind of hard for us to sense God, you know what we do? We do what Job just said that we do. We just go back to the basics. I think we make it so difficult. Just like, oh, I got to do this. I got to go on this pilgrimage somewhere, and I got to, I have to fast for 80 days. Don't fast for 80 days, okay? You'll die. What do we do? Job is saying, okay, in those times where you're feeling kind of empty, what did he do? He hearkened back to the basics of his relationship with God. He talked about how he follows closely to the steps of God, keeping God's way without turning aside, not departing from the commands of God's lips, treasuring the words of his mouth, his word, more than his daily bread. What's Job saying? He's saying, this is a time for me just to try to fall in love with Jesus again, to fall in love with God again. This is a time for me just to get back into His Word, to read His Word, to rediscover His Word. This is a time for me to evaluate where I'm at with God. And if I am straying anywhere, you know what? I'm going to fix that, and I'm just going to stay completely devoted to God. And I just want to tell you here today that do not feel guilty because you feel this way. I don't want you to react with guilt. I want you to react today in such a way where you think, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get real with God, me and Him. And trust me, God is more than feelings. God is all about faith. And so get back to the basics, especially His Word, because out of that will come your faith in God. Okay, I gotta go. I'm praying for you today. Okay, love you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.